So a really big part of this course is going to be to really understand two main processes that I'm going to talk about in this video. Normally, when I teach about these processes, I actually like to have you experience them so that way you try to come up with the steps on your own. Unfortunately, because of the remote circumstances, I'm actually going to talk to you guys about them and then you're going to be able to engage in them. So let's take a look at the Intro to Engineering, Design, and Scientific Method presentation. So when we're looking at these two different methods, scientific method versus the engineering design process, we have to ask what the difference is. Both of these are known as iterative processes, which means that you can repeat them over and over and over again in order to get the optimal solution or conclusions. However, there are slightly different reasons to use each one, so you have to make sure to be purposeful about this. Taking a look at the scientific method versus the engineering design process, in the scientific method, this is going to be a process for experimentation that is used to explore observations and answer questions, and it can be modified. But taking a look at the engineering design process, this is going to be a series of steps that engineers follow to come up with a solution to a problem. The solution involves designing a product, like a machine or a computer code, that meets certain criteria and or accomplishes a certain task. Now, the engineering design process is different from the steps of the scientific method because if your project involves making observations and doing experiments, you should probably do the scientific method. If your project involves designing, building, and testing something, then you should probably follow the engineering design process. Both can be used over and over again, but you need to be purposeful about which one that you choose. And you could potentially use both when you're trying to come up with an optimal solution or conclusion. So here are some flow maps that might be helpful to you. On our left, you're going to see the scientific method. And on the right, you're going to see the engineering design method. Now, they're very similar, and as you take a look at these yellow boxes that are on the sides, these are showing or demonstrating that iterative process. So when we take a look at that iterative process, that's when you have to go back, circle back, in order to try and find your optimal solution. Now, you're also going to realize that we've got some different terminologies, such as in the scientific method, we're going to use terms such as a question, and we're going to use terms such as hypothesis. Where in the engineering design method, we're going to use problem, and we're going to talk about specifying requirements. Now let's talk about charts. So if you're more of a chart person, you can use this chart. And then also down here on the bottom, I've got a link to the Science Buddies webpage that really talks about, or that really breaks everything down that's in this presentation as well. So which one will you choose for your upcoming project? This is something that's super important that you're going to have to analyze and maybe even talk to your peers about in a discussion post. You're going to have to ask yourself some questions. First question, are you trying to make observations or conducting an experiment? If yes, then you're going to want to use the scientific method. Are you trying to design a product, build a prototype, or test something? If yes, then you're going to want to use the engineering and design process. So I was just talking about how you need to choose either the scientific method or the engineering and design process in this project. I'm actually going to be engaging in the engineering and design process because there's something that I want to build / create, or in this case it's going to be work on, that I really don't know how to do. So, this is my bike. It's really old, and I like to ride my bike. However, right now, when I get on it, and I go to ride, and I start to pedal, you're noticing that there's this real big squeaking noise, and when I try to shift my gears, it doesn't always work that great. So, this is something that I'd like to try and solve. and I'm not exactly sure how. So that's why I'm going to engage in the engineering and design process in order to figure out how to solve this issue. So, like I just mentioned, I'm deciding to use the engineering design process in order to try and tune up my bike or fix my bike. So that way it's not making weird noises and then it just operates better overall. Now, for your guys' assignment, you guys are going to be having to define a problem or ask a scientific question using the scientific method. If you're doing a question, or if you're using the engineering design process, what is the problem that you're defining? So that's what I'm going to do. Now, normally, if we didn't have this class remotely, I would be having you use a notebook. However, you guys are going to be using the electronic document that I provided to you guys on Schoology. However, I'm still going to use a notebook because I like drawing pictures and stuff. If you want to draw pictures and diagrams and sketches, you should totally do that. And then you can just insert them into the document using a video camera or using your phone or some other digital camera. So once again, since I decided to do the engineering design process, the first thing that I'm going to do in my notebook is I'm going to define and label my problem. Now, you're going to be doing this in your electronic notebook, but I'm going to do it in my paper notebook. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to write problem, and I'm going to underline it so that way it's nice, clear, and organized. Now I actually already did this for you guys in your guys' template on Schoology. So when I go to define my problem, I want to try and think about what my criteria and my constraints are. And it's okay to be specific, but basically your problem that you're defining is going to be what exactly is going to be the outcome that you're looking for. What is your goal? So in this case, my problem, to put it simply, is going to be how do I tune up my bike so that it doesn't make noises or so that it works more efficiently. And put a question mark.